Hello, Shashi. Welcome to the Wonder Woman Festival.
Hi, love. Thank you for having me.
Uh, Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. We have Shashi Soluna today with us, who is one of the expert teacher and international facilitator and tantric coach, and the author of the book Tantra Made Easy. And she's a founder of lifetantra.com, which is one of the platform for the all tantric people, I would say, to to find out the new teachings or the live videos with different teachers. So she has a lot to contribute, I would say, in Tantra world. And I know her probably now since 8 years or more. And I have really seen how she has matured in her being as a teacher, as a friend, as a facilitator. She's really a sparkling woman and much to inspire and to learn. So let's welcome you, Shashi. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Shashi, would you like to say something about Tao Tantra? Because I feel that is something very unique you have to offer, and not many teachers, combine this Taoism with Tantra. So how does it make a
Mm,
difference when Tao combines with Tantra? How something about that?
that's a good question. Yeah, a lot of people ask me what's the difference, what's the similarity. I like to point out similarities. These teachings are all from like the Himalayan regions, and I'm sure there were teachers like traveling across the Himalayas, just spreading the teachings. But there is also a difference, and the Taoist, which is from China, they focused a lot on health and longevity, and most especially life force, energy, chi. There's so much focus on the elixir of life, the mystery of the elixir of life. So the sexual practices, they have a lot of focus on how do you conserve your life force energy, how do you have radiant bubbling life force energy, to feel good, of course, but also for your Wei Qi field, which is your immunity, your health, your protection, um, and for having spiritual experience by using your sexual energy, both to exchange with a partner and to expand your energy so you can have higher states of consciousness. So the Taoist teachings and practices I would say they're more like engineering than the tantric ones. In Tantra, I have loved doing beautiful rituals and feeding each other chocolate and, doing our namaste, bowing to each other as a god and a goddess. Like the whole flavor of the ritualness of Tantra is so yummy. I just love it, treating our bodies like temples and our beloved like a living god or goddess. Whereas the Taoist is a lot more like mechanical, like pull your energy up here and then left a bit and 3 inches up here and then hold it here and hold your breath and squeeze. And, when I first did Taoist things, I found them a bit dry, like squeezing my perineum. I didn't feel very sexy, please and hold. But as I got to know the practices, I realized that they're absolute masterful. Like it's phenomenal to have a system that teaches you how to work with energy and how to tap into that incredible life force energy that we're all sitting on, which is our sexual energy. And most of us are taught in mainstream life to just lose that energy. For a man, that's by ejaculating, like. But for women, it's the same. If we're taught to self-pleasure by just like rubbing our clitoris or having a man rub our clitoris, we also just contract around that energy and then spit it out. And so ultimately we drain ourselves instead of accessing that energy and learning how to pull it up, crack our hearts open and expand our minds and build our immunity and all of these yummy things.
Wow. And so you mean to say that Taoism it's more masculine approach and the Tantra is more feminine and Shakti approach? And when these two combine,
It
then
can be. It's hard to differentiate the teachings and the teachers. I've been in Tantra schools that are quite masculine. I've been in one run by like a Swami, and it's like practice and stand on your head and pull your energy, very masculine approach. And then I've been in the Osho school, which is more like touchy-feely emotions and dancing and uber feminine. So Tantra can be both. Taoism, of course, Mantak Chia, who I worked with, I wrote a book with him, I lived with him for 2 years. He is a man, and he's like one of the forefront teachers, but he does it in a very masculine way. There's no music, you sit on a chair, you just move your energy. I teamed up with one of his senior teachers, Minka DeVos. We met at Mantak Chia's school, and we were like, why don't we do this in a feminine way? You know, these teachings are amazing, but so dry. You know, let's do it with music, with dance, with sensuality, with massage. So that's how we created Tao Tantric Arts. We like literally wanted to kind of take the best of both schools. They're very compatible. You know, like in the class that I'm offering for Wonder Woman, I actually talk a little bit about the philosophy. I think it's good, as well as practices, to know what is the philosophy. And whereas Tantra has like Shiva and Shakti, energy and consciousness dancing together, the Tao would have yin and yang, which is also matter. Like the yin is the body, the feminine, and yang is consciousness. So it's very similar to Shiva and Shakti. And not so much personified. But the same idea is there, that ultimately we need to bring opposites together and have them make love or dance in some way, that we then come into this like alchemy of finding our true self, which is the result of that inner lovemaking.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for throwing some light on, you know, it's not really talk so much about Tao Tantra, so it's good to know from you. And we'll come on your topic in Wonder Woman Festival, which is navigating through fear and darkness, and which is quite relevant to today's time, because many people, you know, they are feeling very uncertain about these times, losing job or having, you know, different kind of emotions or darkness to deal with. So can you share something about your workshop, what women can expect and can take back? And
Yeah, absolutely. So I chose this topic very much for that reason. I like to be sort of relevant to the here and now. And I'm listening also to my own students and clients and what they're asking me, and so on. And so I know that right now we all have to learn how to navigate fear and darkness. You know, before it was a choice, a little more of a choice, and there were spiritual ones who'd go off and do Vipassana and face their shadow or go to the jungle or whatever. But you could be busy enough to not face your fear, right? But now pretty much everybody's having to face it in some way. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and there's a lot of darkness being exposed, and that's not easy to deal with. So in my class, what I'm exploring is, what do we do with that? What do we do with fear? Like, fear is a horrific feeling, like terror. We can feel like our life is threatened. You know, it may or may not be being threatened, but that's not the point. The point is we're having a visceral reaction. And the more trauma that we have unresolved in our nervous system, the worse something feels, like we get more triggered by it. So those people right now who have trauma that hasn't been resolved in their nervous system, they're going to read a news post or hear a statistic or get something from the outside world or lose their job, and it'll be like, like releasing old trauma as well, like totally triggering. So some people are experiencing horrific levels of fear right now. And this, you know, a lot of people want to negate that and go, well, what are you worrying about? Look at this statistic and it's not so bad and whatever. But you can never negate someone else's fear. It doesn't help anything. Fear, it's not about being true or not. Fear is real. It's not about true. Fear is your nervous system going into fight or flight mode, going into panic, going into terror. It is horrific. Our inner child gets triggered, and we often in that state get cut off from light, from the hope, from love even. So that's what I'm talking about by a state of darkness. And I do differentiate between a healthy darkness, like winter and nighttime and the dark moon, and a shadow darkness, which is when we feel caught in a dark space and we cannot feel the light anymore. It comes up a lot in relationships where you're going along and everything's lovely, and then you get triggered. And the moment you get triggered by your partner, because your whole nervous system switches into this kind of traumatic place, it actually affects your memory, your mind. You can't recall any of the good moments you had with your partner. When you're triggered, the only memories you have are all the things that ever won, right? It's an interesting phenomenon, right? You're triggered and you're like, and you did this and you do that. You no, you always do this, and this relationship sucks. And somehow, we can't recall that actually we were having a good time yesterday. And so this is the state of darkness, is when we get cut off from feelings of positivity or hope or light. So we need to know how to navigate that. And one way that I'm not endorsing is to try and bypass it, to try and avoid fear because it's so uncomfortable. So I'll just watch lots of Netflix or drink some alcohol or do something that'll make me feel better. We need to know how to integrate the dark and the light together. And interestingly, this is the essence of what Tantra and Tao are both about. Both of them as philosophical systems. Ultimately, when you get beyond like great orgasms and all of these other juicy, interesting things, if you get to the core, they're both saying you've got to unite your masculine, your feminine, your Shiva and your Shakti, your light and your dark, and create this feeling of integration. There you will find peace. There you can find your true self. There you can rest in the authenticity of who you really are.
Would you talk, means we know probably the people who knows you, they know about your beautiful relationship with Shahid. So can you talk that how partners can practice conscious sexuality, and do you practice anything on everyday basis or maybe weekly basis to keep your relationship tantric?
Good question. Well, right now we're doing a lot of practice. I'm rather liking. We are locked down. We're locked down in beautiful Bali in a gorgeous villa, which helps everything. And we were meant to be going apart to different countries, but we have a bonus couple of months. So right now our practice is amazing because we wake up and we have love time. We like to make love in the morning. And we do our yoga, our qigong, our meditation. We do a long morning practice, and that's 2 yoga mats together, getting our energy moving, doing different breath work, doing whatever. And then in the evenings, we do different kind of rituals and practices. I mean, we're going through we've done a lot of tantric massage trainings, and we've got the booklet here, and we're literally going through it, like, oh, let's do this one tonight, and let's do that one. And, so we're doing a lot, and I think there's no way of saying what's right or what's wrong because we have life, and there are couples who've got children. Normally you have jobs, you have children, you have so many things. So I normally recommend to a couple to pick one evening a week. I like Tantric Tuesdays, and let that be so sacrosanct that your Tuesdays are never replaced by seeing friends or going out or watching a movie. It's like, it's our Tantra night. And I think it works best when one person orchestrates it. So one Tuesday it's me, and I decide we'll have dinner, and then we'll dance some salsa, and we're going to have a fiery night, and then we're going to do this lovemaking practice. And then Shahid's night, it'll be his planning. Well, I'll take her out for dinner here, and then I'll give her this beautiful massage, and we'll have a bath and whatever. So it's beautiful to host for each other and to have tantric date nights. But I absolutely think to be proactive. I think generally couples are too lazy. They think, oh, all I have to do is fall in love and it'll be wonderful. And, entropy happens. It just, you end up watching Netflix or something. So I definitely think it's great to be proactive. And we run couples retreats, and we always say, you've got to do homework. You've got to have your Tantric Tuesdays, to keep this alive.
Yes, for sure. I think especially after a year of the relationship, both has to contribute to keep the relationship alive and juicy and be innovative and creative. And that's where Tantra and teachers like you can give nice and good tips to keep the relationship alive and
Absolutely.
nice. Yeah.
We've come up with a fun thing in our lockdown. We bought a pack of playing cards when we were in the supermarket, or like, maybe we'll play cards. And then we came up with this idea, whoever won the card game could ask to receive something from the other partner that night. So we've invented this new thing in our relationship, and we get really competitive, and then it's like, yeah, I won. I would like the yoni massage, please. Or,
you have the perks.
New element we brought in.
Yes. Tell me about, like in relationships, it's very natural, especially for women, or even it could be for a man, to have feelings of jealousy, possessiveness. So, do you get jealous and possessive still if Shahid is looking at other women, or how do you navigate through that? And yeah.
I'm going to give a response that I think will be more unusual, because what I hear a lot in the Tantra world is hold space for your jealousy and work through it and whatever. I'm going to offer something different, and it comes from maybe years of, maybe it comes from maturity, years of experience. But when I entered this relationship, I felt like I really wanted to know the fullness of love. Like I wanted to love without limits. I wanted to hold nothing back. And Shahid wanted the same. So we're like, right, let's find the biggest love we can. And as we look at that, we realize that the places where we've been hurt or felt insecure in the past are the places where we're holding back. So we had a big sharing. How was your heart broken in the past, and what hurt you? And we decided, why don't we have our intention to make each other's hearts safe? That's the intention of this relationship. I want your heart to feel safe with me, and I want my heart to feel safe with you. We had this feeling, I mean, having worked with Tantra and sexuality so long, I know that our bodies only open up when they feel safe. You cannot make someone orgasmic. You have to make someone safe, and then they'll enter pleasure and orgasm and bliss, right? So I thought it's got to be the same with the heart. What if we make each other's heart feel safe? Then we're going to open to love automatically. We don't have to do love, we'll just be love. So that's literally the process that we have done. We have done like creating a relationship agreement field. You know, I've got all this explained on websites and things, but we created a process that we now lead other couples through. And that's bottom line. So then even when we're in more challenging environments, so Tantra festivals, play parties where everybody's making love or, you know, being juicy together and interacting, our bottom line is your heart is safe with me. And so it's not so much that we have a set of you can't do this and you can't do that and you mustn't look at another woman, because it doesn't work like that, right? I mean, sometimes he could be receiving a massage from two naked women and I'm not triggered at all, and another woman might just look at him and I'm like, so we realized that we couldn't really set guidelines, and we also don't want to impose on each other's freedom. We're freely choosing each other's hearts. And his heart is the most precious thing that the greatest honor that I've ever had to hold space for in my whole life. Is the most precious thing in my life. And it also gives me the most love and the most rewards. And so I honor his heart above all else. And I can feel if his heart is threatened, even if he's not in the room. Like if he's in Holland and I'm in Bali and I'm dancing with someone, I can feel the minute that his heart isn't safe, and I choose to just step out of that interaction and just come back into myself. So that's how we navigate it, by having a really beautiful choice to commit to each other's heart being safe. And I rest in that so deeply. It's been several years now, and I feel it. I feel that commitment coming from him. I feel how much love comes, and so we can actually allow each other more freedom. He loves to dance sexy with lots of women. He's great dancer or whatever, and I'm not threatened by it because my heart is safe with him. So that's my answer. I know it's unusual, but it works.
No, it's a beautiful
I
answer.
prefer this to the whole polyamory and get triggered and then process it. That takes a lot of energy. So this is what's working for us.
No, it's a beautiful answer. It's coming very much from the experience of different relationships and maturity. So what I hear from you is the authentic communication is also very important in the relationships. Do you both try to be very honest? Like even if he would dream about another woman, would he share with you? Or if you had fantasy about some other man, do you share it so openly?
Yeah. You know, what I've come up with, again, you know, I use things in my own relationship and then with couples and couples retreats, but I realized that we feel threatened by someone else's fantasy if we think it's all about the other woman or whatever. But if I can see that it's all about my man, it's actually about his sexuality, then it's actually very beautiful. So I designed a communication structure that I use with couples where they describe a fantasy they have, first, and then they start describing how it feels in their body, so they come back to themselves. So it might be like, oh, I fantasize about like 5 men rubbing my body with oil or whatever, but then I come back into, this is what I'm feeling in my body, I'm noticing this, I'm feeling that, and my yoni's pulsing and this energy is rising. And I own my fantasy within my own body, within my own sexuality. And then it's safe for Shahid to witness me, because, you know, it's not about these other men, it's about me, you know, accessing my sexuality and expressing that to him. And actually, I find I do this with so many couples, and I find they get turned on at this point. Like, it's like, oh, they can see their partner's sexuality and see their partner owning it, and it actually generally brings couples closer together. So I think the communication is very important, because if you just stop at, oh, I'm fantasizing about these 5 men, or I had this great dream, then of course the other partner can feel totally left out. Oh, she wants them and not me. I mean, we're humans, right? Yeah. But if it's like, I had this fantasy, but here's what I learned about myself, and then you can bring that to your partner.
You're teaching together with Shahid, and as I know that Shahid is also doing his teacher's training, so you plan to do a lot of couple trainings together?
Yeah. You know, funnily enough, before I met him, even a few years ago, I felt like I want to do more couples tantra, because, you know, sometimes the tantra field gets a bit much about dating all the time, and a lot of people enter it to, which is fine. I mean, of course, you come to find a partner, it's a good place to find one, but I wanted to work with people who had already chosen each other, so that we could go deeper into the tantra and into the practices, and, you know, like, go deeper into the actual work. So I had already made that choice, and we've been doing them together now for 3 years, and it's been really fantastic. So we call it thetantriccouple.com, and we run weekends and holidays for couples.
Oh, beautiful, amazing. Yeah, it's very necessary in tantra to bring more couple work together, because it's not just about looking new partner, but also how you can be in this relationship. That's more challenging, actually, you know, to be in the same relationship and see our triggers, see our, you know, what is coming up in the relationship and how to navigate through it, because otherwise it just remains unresolved. We jump from one relationship to the other, and it's the same situation, same problem, still standing there.
Exactly. And then also, I find working with couples, a lot of them have got children, families, or businesses, you know, they're cultivating something together. And so it's even more important that they have tools for communication, for opening to love, keeping the juiciness alive, because that then ripples out to the family or to the community, you know. So it's really cultivating something. It's not just a passing experience in a tantra workshop. It's like, you know, we're cultivating love here, which is a beautiful thing.
So as we're talking on couples, so I feel like there are more questions for me when I'm, you know, interviewing you coming on couples. So I would ask you another question related to couples, that every couple has, you know, conflicts, you know, at some point or the other, or some kind of fight. How do you resolve that, you know, with Shahid? Communication, and something else also you would like to say?
You know, actually, it's a very good question. The first thing we do in our couples retreat is talk about conflict, because before we start doing like tantric massage or whatever, we know that you're doing couples retreat, you're going to get triggered and you're going to end up in arguments. So we like, you know, the way you have a fire drill. So when there's a fire, you know, where you're leaving the building, we're like, let's have a trigger drill. So when someone gets triggered, you know what you're going to do. And let's sort that out now. So we do that first of all in our workshops, and we come up with a number, but we really like the physical communication is fantastic. So we use, you know, nonviolent communication and mirror communication, but we find that some visceral practices are also needed, where you get to move energy. And so based on studies around trauma and how because when we get triggered, it's like old traumas are coming up. Based on that, we use a number of tools, and maybe one of the most effective, I can't quite do it on my own, but it's to push hands, but you push against each other. So you would look into each other's eyes, take a deep breath and go, and like push, not trying to push each other over, okay? Because a man is usually stronger. It's not about like winning,
Right.
but it's about being felt, because usually when we have conflict, a lot of our anger is because of boundaries, right? You know, crossing boundaries in various ways, or power dynamics. And so this is a way to like, here's my power, here are my boundaries. Both of you get to feel it. You have your eyes open, so you're not going into like, you know, just pushing anger out. You're you're seeing each other, pushing it, and you find it discharges the charge very, very fast. So usually 2 or 3 pushes, and then you're ready. We always pull peace down. It's like a qigong move afterwards. So we discharge and that saves hours of talking. And I think we have to be very careful with talking, because we can come up with theories and hypotheses. Well, our mind is so clever, and it's like most of the time it's an old trauma that is unconscious, that's coming up. Like something a man did to us years ago is coming up now, and it's nothing to do with our partner. And we come up with, oh well, this theory and that theory, and you're like this and you're not right for me, and then we're too clever for our own good. And I think we need to be very careful. Sometimes we need to just be like 2 little tigers, 2 little puppy dogs, have a fight, move it safely through our bodies, and just let the energy clear.
One more question, I feel is also important for women at times to know during the relationship. It's always, you know, women gets too much in, you know, like just lose the center completely, and, you know, get in so much surrender that she doesn't exist, which is also beautiful to experience in love. That's very feminine. But in my experience, I've seen that it doesn't work so much, because, you know, the other person maybe start taking for granted, and you also lose your center, your creativity, your passion
Mhm.
and motivation in life. So how would you suggest from your experience that women can balance and dance this love and, you know, being in center?
I'll try and be brief, but I think I could answer this for hours. But I'll give you a nutshell. I mean, this is a great, I think we could do a week-long workshop on this. It's a good topic. But, you know, one thing that's very small and simple is that surrender is a feminine quality, but that we make the mistake of surrendering to the man's ego, and then we get caught in a power dynamic. That is really, I use the word submission for that. When we are giving away our power to anybody else, whether it's a lover or a guru or an authority figure, then we're actually submitting our power. And so we get this feeling of feminine, but we're also giving away our power, which ultimately doesn't feel good. And we feel like we start losing ourselves. We also put ourselves in a vulnerable position for abuse if we surrender to the wrong person, right? So the term surrender is indeed very, very beautiful. But when you really look at what Tantra is teaching, it's about surrendering to God. It's about surrendering to Shiva, not this little human being person with all of his faults, but the higher consciousness that is his true nature, and also your true nature. So you can surrender to God alone. You know, you can be like surrendering to your own higher self, or to the sky, to the universe, whatever, however you connect to it. But of course, it's beautiful in relationship to surrender to God through the other. But you just need to be super careful that doesn't mean his ego, his will, his humanity, you know, which has got all its distortions, you know. But the divinity, the pure light of consciousness that is in him. And that's a big tantric practice called transfiguration, to see the divine in someone, and then still deal with the human side. Like, it's not bypassing. You don't think somebody's perfect just because you can see God in them. It's like, I see God, I bow to that, I surrender to that, and there's this human that I'm also relating with. So I feel in relationship we have higher self, and inner child. And if we both get triggered, we've got 2 inner children coming together, which is really hard to navigate. If one person gets triggered, then we have, you know, a higher self, which becomes like a divine mother, a divine father. We can hold space, and ultimately we want to reach the place where we can both be in our expanded true self. So you need to understand a little that it's you know, how reality up, not entering to the peace. And I think I want to say, need to navigate in and out of relationship with other and with self continuously, not to get lost in the relationship, because there is a power structure, there is, you know, there's energy, there's a whole thing between two, and it's beautiful to go into it, but it's super important that you come out and get back into relationship with yourself, your inner male, your inner female, your inner sovereign, and really take that time and space to do that. Ideally away, you know, now we're in lockdown, you might just have to go to the other side of the bedroom, but ideally going away on a women's retreat or a silent retreat and taking time with yourself on a regular basis to keep working on your inner relationship. So that, I think, is the important piece, because yeah, we can lose ourselves,
you also do
even the most beautiful relationship.
Yeah, it's beautiful conversation I feel that we have been doing on relationships, and we can go on and on. But here I would also like to know a little bit, I remember you do darkness retreats. So for women, what can they find for themselves in darkness retreats? Because generally, you know, it feels like more masculine when it is about achieving something in spirituality, like, oh, I can sit for 11 days in Vipassana meditation or something. So in darkness retreat, what do you feel for women they can receive?
First of all, I think that's a masculine attitude, yes, of like, let me do 10 days in the dark. But actually, you know, when you look at the Tao and philosophy, the darkness is actually the feminine and the light is the masculine. And in my class, I'm going to teach practices that bring that awareness. So actually, as women, we're deeply connected to the darkness. Every month when we bleed, we are drawn into the underworld. Energetically, our energy goes down. And if we let ourselves follow our truth, we normally want to stay in, be alone, and dark emotions might come. And we in a way have access to everything that can be avoided if we're too busy. So I call it the underworld. It's a shamanic term, but it's a very useful one. And there we see what's coming up and what needs to be healed. Women are actually very psychic during their period if they let themselves. And, you know, also during your menstruation, you feel not only your pain body, but you feel the pain body of those you relate with and of all of humanity. And so that can be quite a lot of pain. But when you open yourself to feel that pain and open your heart, you can develop a lot of compassion, because you realize that all pain came here to be loved. That's what pain is. Like, we wonder, why do we have pain? Pain came here to be loved. And our pain bodies, our karma that we're born with, however you want to look at it, we all have wounding and pain from last life, from childhood, from wherever. And all of that pain to be healed needs to be loved. So the darkness needs to be brought into the heart and into the light of our consciousness for healing to happen. Going into physical darkness just helps that. It just speeds it up. And so I used to, every time I was bleeding, I would go and I lived in Thailand, I would rent a little hut in the jungle on my own. And I would go and just fast, or I'd just take some oranges and just like eat very little and go into whatever emotions were coming, whatever feelings, you know, but go into the darkness. And I found it so healing. Like I could feel each month whatever wanted to be healed in me and in my loved ones, and ultimately the collective is available there.
Yes.
I just also have to say, in case people are listening going, oh, I want to do a darkness retreat, I haven't run them for a couple of years because I was doing them in Delhi, and the pollution reached a point where I no longer wanted to use that venue, and I haven't found another venue. So just to say that, in case people are like, oh, I want to do a darkness retreat, I haven't yet found another venue. So
yes, I have done in the same place in Delhi, the darkness retreat, and it was a beautiful experience, and I would also highly recommend. And probably that's where, because I experienced something very profound, so I wanted to hear from you also, if you know somewhere the message can convey to women that it could be really a beautiful experience to manifest.
You know, I'd actually like to do a women's only one, as you mentioned it, because also there's an issue of safety being in pitch dark, and especially in Indian women were saying they didn't feel so safe being in the darkness with the Indian men, and it's not part of your culture to just sort of plunge into a dark room. And so I totally understood that, and I separated men and women, but I thought it would be very beautiful to do a darkness retreat of just women, so we're like in the womb together, holding each other's inner child, you know, doing that healing together. It's been a dream of mine. So, you know, maybe we can make that happen together, Shrishti. We just need to
Yeah,
find the right
yeah,
venue.
inshallah. Why not? Sure, one day. Just one more question, like, you know, in these times, depression and suicide are also very common. So how can Tantra help people who are in depression? And what can it do to support them?
So again, a question that could be answered in a very, very long way, but I feel like the wisdom of Tao in particular is very, very helpful for this, because they look at our health and well-being in terms of how our yin and yang balanced. If we have an excess of yin, like, you know, if like a couch potato, you're like sitting all day watching Netflix, eating heavy yin food, you know, you can slump into depression, life is meaningless, you know, so you can overdo the yin. You need a balance of yin and yang. So yang is more activity, right? So you need to get up in the morning. You need to make yourself do some yoga or some workout, go for a walk, you know, get going. And then get the balance. And it's best to get the yin in the evening, start lighting candles, listen to soft music, do some meditation, have a deep sleep, wake up in the morning, get your yang going, start doing some yoga, start doing your morning practice, and have something to do during the day. And if you have this flow of yin and yang, then you won't get an excess of one of those emotions. So depression and suicide and these heavier emotions often happen when there may be a lack of yang from feeling no purpose, like there's no meaning, there's no purpose, or an excess of yin. You just like followed habits that were like took you downwards, or a combination of both. So, you know, like, I mean, like I said, it's a big question, and I would work one-on-one with people to see how did you get here, and how to get you out. And I like to work holistically, looking at diet, you know, like yin foods, heavy foods, or too much sweet food, and it can really like ground you. And if you're depressed, you don't need that. You need vibrant foods, you need uplifting raw foods, you know. So the diet can be a huge part of it. The daily practice is a huge part of it. Finding purpose is a huge part of it. Connecting all of that heaviness, the inner child, I'm pointing down to my belly, but you can't see, but you know, like the heaviness is in the lower part of the body. Opening the heart and connecting to spirit, finding purpose, finding inspiration. So deliberately going and looking for uplifting, inspiring teachers and things that inspire, and doing Qigong. So I'm going to share a Qigong class on your Wonder Woman that is so simple and yet is great for exactly that, for like connecting the heaviness and the light continuously together through the heart. The heart is very key in this, because if we're stuck in darkness, and we're trying to get to like love and light without the heart, the love and light is going to feel cheesy and inauthentic. You know, you could watch affirmations, you could go, I'm love and I'm happy. You know, it's not going to work. The key is the heart, and the heart is the alchemist. It's the gateway between the light and the dark, and it's the alchemist that can start taking some of the old undigested pain body. Like that's what the heaviness is. Sometimes comes so big in people that they just feel they have to end their life. That needs to be digested, that needs to be processed, and that pain needs to be taken into the heart. So I'm also going to share the Atisha's meditation, which I know you know, of like taking pain into the heart and transforming it into love. And so these kind of alchemical practices are also amazing for people who are suffering. But people have got to want it. That is the bottom line. That is the bottom line. Like, we can know all the tools and techniques, but the person who's suffering has to do one vital thing. They have to choose their own well-being. They have to, even if they don't know the way, even if they're like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed and I want to kill myself, they have to be able to say, I choose otherwise. I choose healing. Universe, help me. You know, they have to make that choice. So I just want to say that we do have free will, and that's a very important piece. You can't go telling someone what to do without them choosing.
Correct. They have to choose, means there could be ample amount of positivity around, but they have to choose to walk the path. It is them who can walk the path, and nobody else can walk it for them.
Exactly. And I've seen people who are caught in a slump and they suddenly go, enough is enough. I choose to get out of this. And then the whole universe conspires to heal them, whether it's a teacher or teaching, like everything, so that is a very key moment, is like, you've got to stop attaching to your suffering and like, identifying, oh, poor me, and I've suffered. You have to find that little piece that goes, actually, I want to be better. I want to be happy.
Yeah. Any message for women? And also, I know that you do once in a year women's teachers training, Tantra teachers training,
Twice a year. Yeah.
Twice a year you do, and it's for 3 weeks. 5 weeks. Okay, wonderful. So women, that if you're looking also for any teachers training, you can check out Shashi's offerings. And any other message for women at the Women Festival, Shashi, you would like to?
It's our 10th year now of Tao Tantric Arts, so it's been running a long time. Any message? Well, I mean, I've shared a lot of messages. I think if I could only have one message, it would be around compassion. If I could say something, I've had 20 years of very, very dedicated life to spirituality, and I feel like everything points back to compassion, and compassion is everything, and there were times when I was more selfish, seeking my own enlightenment or my own healing, and kept it more about me. And then there was always more pain coming and more struggle. And it was only sort of through the goddess Kuan Yin, working with Kuan Yin and opening myself with curiosity to what compassion really is, that I realized that compassion is really the answer of everything. It's everything we're looking for. It's different from love. Compassion is it starts with self-love, being able to listen to your own darkness and your inner child and like hold it and love it better. And when you've done that for yourself, then automatically you see the suffering in others, and instead of judging it or trying to fix it, it's like compassion just happens. You just want to put your arms around, you just send love. So my message would be, learn about compassion, cultivate compassion, practice compassion, pray for compassion. It really is, it's I think it's everything that we're searching for in this life, actually. I think it fulfills everything.
Compassion is, yes, very beautiful message. Thank you. It's the medicine for the world, especially in today's time, or every time we need. Thank you so much, Shashi, for joining us, and thank you, listeners, for being with us. And don't miss it. Shashi would be in Wonder Woman Festival, 4th of May, 10:30 a.m. Thank you, and stay tuned in. Thank you, Shashi, for joining us.
Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for your wonderful work.
Bye-bye.